Welcome to London Crafts Week's 3D Clay Printing webinar. I'm Preston Fitzgerald, I'm the curator of this event, and we have 6 artists working in digital technology and clay. This is a relatively new field in ceramics, but technology and industrial methods have been used for centuries in ceramics and pottery, such as Josiah Wedgwood and Josiah Spode in England back in the 18th century. Our discussion will cover the history of 3D clay printing and many topics encountered by these 6 artists. If you have any questions, please send them in and we'll try to answer as many as possible. This talk is being recorded and it'll be available in the near future through London Craft Week. If you would like to attend this demonstration, it continues tomorrow at 11 Avenue Studios in South Kensington. Details are all on the website. And we're here tomorrow from 11 a.m. till 5 p.m. And what I'd like to do right now is introduce the 6 artists we have in the show, and they'll give a brief biography. The first one will be Jonathan Keep.
Thanks, Preston. So I've just got a couple of slides as way of introduction here. I live in Suffolk. It is just sort of well north of London. And the other images, well, the other markers on this map are places that I've worked at over the last 10 years that I've been doing 3D printing. If I can get this to move along. There we go. Right, sorry about that, slight delay. My work, this is kind of a what do I do page, that my work is very dependent on form. I have built my own printers. This represents my studio, sort of electric kiln, gas kiln, testing a lot of clay, working in series. The why part of it is I was actually born in South Africa in an African game reserve, became very interested in kind of evolution and ecology. So the background is kind of the biology of beauty, crossover between art and science, and an interest in how we can have data, but then how does that actually transfer over to our emotions, you know, as in music. My way of working is to actually work in computer code written on the left here. That gives me a visualization of what the form might look like. And it's this translation from kind of the virtual into the physical object that really intrigues me. I'm a kind of physical person. Once I've made a program, I can then change the parameters. And then from, you know, one simple bit of code, I can generate a whole sort of morphology of shapes and forms. This, you know, working to exhibition was a display worked around ants, so you can see digital drawings. And the back here, a digital animation, and then anthill type forms, 3D printed in clay and 3D printed in porcelain, smaller pieces. Work in collaboration, this was with Unfold and Charlie Stern being a glass maker, Unfold designers. This project was done in Sweden. There's 3D printed sections in clay with glass blown into them. That's working in collaboration. And then working in residencies. This is a residency out in Austria. And the work here has been kind of, I don't know, informed by fractal patterns, again, coded and then 3D printed. Some recent work, really just representing the, you know, the range of work that I do, and working around Mandelbrot bulbs. So again, you know, from one coded pattern, I can then redraw it and edit it and get this sort of variety of form and shape. So thank you.
Great, and the next speaker will be Michelle Shields.
Thanks, Jonathan. That was great. I'm Michelle Shields. I'm a multidisciplinary maker, which means I started out really in textiles and then did a degree in wood, metal, glass and ceramics, specialised in metalwork at the Royal College of Art, and really came back to ceramics, which is my main love. I did this amazing collection of work, which was 3D printed in France, sort of thinking about hybrid, so combining the hand built with the digitally made, 3D printed. And then this was wood fired in an anagama kiln. And from there, I kind of set up a digital lab at UCA where I teach. And then I did this collaboration with Heleen Sintobin at Grimsdyke Farm, which is the work I'm showing here with Preston, which is very much hybrid crafts, so very much using hand building techniques with digital milling. So starting really, thinking about and working with materiality, making my own clay bodies. So really research based and milling the surface of porcelain, combining this with clay and research to see how things can bubble up and create new ways of seeing clay and exploring clay, which is really ongoing research, which I'm sharing today and tomorrow. You?
Our next speaker is Heleen Sintobin, who sadly couldn't make us here in London for the studio visit, but she's calling from her home in Belgium.
Hi, everyone. I'm Heleen. For me, the adventure of digital craft didn't really start with 3D printing, but started with the CNC machine, which is actually a quite physical tool as well, which involves a lot of material intelligence. I would say I'm an unconventional maker, so I really try to challenge machines. And in this way, I kind of started experimenting with leather. Just start tinkering around, understanding the materiality of it, and really working in a constructive way. So I work very sample-based, and my practice is mainly based on happy accidents. So this is actually what happened here. While coding with the CNC, the tool started to burn the leather, and there was a kind of new language that really fascinated me. And next on, I was like, okay, I'm quite interested in this new type of vocabulary. Then I started tinkering around with ceramics, using ceramics basically as a new medium, as a canvas to kind of translate the traces of the tools. What I really like about this hybrid crafts is that there is the digital reality, but then the physicality of it turns into a totally different artifact. That's what you can see here. The tool is literally kind of dancing with the clay, which also makes that every piece is different. And then what is another layer in our practice is a storytelling bit. So this is a bigger piece in which I kind of look how the traces of the machine kind of fall together with the topography of where the clay comes from. So this, for example, is a mining pit in the UK. And then these tiles are also milled with the CNC, and kind of, I kind of see myself as a facilitator for the fingerprint of the machine. Then during my MA, I met Michelle, who helped me a lot with materiality. And in her kiln room, she had those small samples, which to me really showed the rich materiality of clay and an even more experimental side to it. So this you've seen already from Michelle. It's really tinkering around with kind of foaming clay, adding a fourth dimension to shape. This is, for example, one of the examples, but in the residency we worked with a robot, but ideally we actually want to work with 3D printing as well. So this is the work I'm showing at the moment. So it's, you 3D print something very, very accurate, and then it's actually the kiln and the materiality that then again transforms the shape. And this series is displayed today at Preston's. It's actually kind of challenging the archetype of the bottle. So 3D printing the same shape over and over again, but then after firing, having a totally different result. And kind of anticipating on how pieces will fall and change. Please.
Okay, our next speaker is Fred Gwatkin.
Hi, I'm Fred Gwatkin. I'm the ceramics practice tutor at Goldsmiths, where I work full-time for the fine art department. And I started working with clay when I was about 13 years old. I took it for GCSE and A-level, and I developed an interest in throwing back then, and in Japanese ceramics, and in more traditional firing techniques. So this first image is one which I made back in 1999 of a raku-fired vessel. I actually rediscovered clay about 7 years ago. About 7 years ago, I got back into clay, and I studied at Westminster up to about level 3 under Craig Fowler and Anna Silverton. And shortly after that, I started working at Goldsmiths in 2016, who shortly after acquired the Luton printer, which was when I started developing an interest in actually printing with clay. In terms of the concept behind my work, I'm quite interested in combining the different aesthetics of the digital and the organic. So quite often it feels like there are quite a few contrasting ideas when you're printing clay. It's a very traditional craft. The actual material is quite organic, and I like to create pieces that kind of create some tension with a more digital or computer-aided design aesthetic. In terms of my actual process, we have the Luton, which is made by the Dutch company Von Vrie, and I mostly print using a white stoneware, which is at a kind of softer than throwing consistency. And I design using mostly Fusion, the suite of products, so Mesh Mixer, Fusion 360, working quite visually, so throwing together different forms, combining them, and then the surface of my pieces is something which I pay quite a lot of attention to. So I really enjoy glazing, using underglaze, trying to basically enhance the biomorphic qualities of a lot of my pieces, and quite often anticipating how the glaze might react when I'm in the design process. So that will play into the final product. Okay, thanks.
Our next speaker is Ryan Barrett.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Ryan Barrett. I'm from a fine art textile background. I studied fine art textiles and haven't touched clay up until maybe the last 6 years. I first started throwing and really exploring clay as a medium and just understanding firing and surface texture and glazes. And then came across Jonathan Keep's blog on how to build a 3D printer and realized that you could 3D print clay, which I got obsessed with. And then started with that and then tried to modify PLA printers and then ended up buying a WASP and exploring that, and then decided to build a much larger printer to upscale my prints, which took me quite a while to build and build to sort of a high standard. And then from there, I've been exploring layer heights and fails and just understanding what 3D printing clay is about and what makes it so magical versus handmade pieces and the intricacy. From there, it's just sort of really understanding and sort of perfecting and refining the forms and printing to a sort of a higher standard, and then worked more closely in building larger pieces, and also sort of sticking to the detailing of what the 3D printer can achieve. So like the layer heights, and you can see in the gradients of the black and white porcelain and the brown. And I'm now about to explore a bit more with textiles and mixing textiles into ceramics as well. That's it.
Okay. The last of our 6 speakers is Nico Conti.
Hello everyone, I'm Nico. I'm originally from Malta and I came to London to study for my MA at the Royal College of Art 3 years ago, and I graduated from there last year. At the moment, I am part of a scholarship in cockpit arts in Deptford, where I have been exploring 3D printing. I discovered 3D printing on my first year, but at the end of my first year at the Royal College of Art, I also had Jonathan Keep as a tutor or as a visiting tutor. And that's when I discovered my love for 3D printing and what it can offer and what I can achieve with it when compared to other things. You know, like I couldn't achieve the same thing using other equipment. And in this case, I was very interested in how to utilize failure and make something that's aesthetically pleasing, but using unconventional ways or unconventional techniques. I mix my own clay, and I find that to be quite important to achieve certain qualities and finesse, and it's quite a long process in order to be able to print so thinly, yet have the clay to be so pigmented. And my recent works, I've been exploring the idea of how my work looks with light, and to combine both the fragility of the porcelain and also structure. So it would be a strong piece, but it would look extremely delicate. And that's it for my presentation. If you want to see more pictures, feel free to go on my Instagram. Thank you.